The year is 1529. A storm is coming, not of wind or rain, but of steel, fire, and conquest. For decades, one empire has been expanding without limits, swallowing kingdoms, crushing armies, and rewriting the balance of power across continents. At its center stands Suleiman the Magnificent, the most powerful ruler of his time, known not only as a conqueror, but as a strategist, a lawgiver, and a man determined to leave his mark on history. Under his command, the Ottoman Empire has already taken Constantinople in 1453, turning it into the heart of a new empire. It has shattered the Kingdom of Hungary at the Battle of Moats, killing its king and leaving Central Europe exposed. Now, his eyes are fixed on one target: Vienna. A city that is more than just stone and walls. It is the gateway to Central Europe, a strategic crossroads of trade, power, and influence. If Vienna falls, the road to the Holy Roman Empire opens. Germany, Italy, perhaps even beyond, and standing in his way, a force so small it should not even matter. Barely 1,100 professional corps defenders, reinforced by militias, mercenaries, and local fighters, totaling somewhere between 16,000 and 20,000 men, facing an empire, facing tens of thousands, facing history itself. The march of a giant. Suleiman's campaign begins with overwhelming confidence. He assembles one of the largest armies Europe has seen in decades. Estimates ranging from 100,000 to over 120,000 soldiers at the start of the march. This is not just an army. It is a moving civilization of war. Elite janissaries, disciplined infantry raised and trained from childhood, heavy cavalry known as sipais, masters of battlefield mobility, thousands of engineers, sappers, and artillery specialists, massive siege cannons capable of reducing cities to rubble. But war is not always decided by strength alone. As the Ottomans push deeper into Europe, nature begins to fight back. Relentless rain turns roads into swamps, wagons collapse into mud, oxen and horses struggle, then die. The heaviest siege guns, the very weapons needed to destroy Vienna's walls, are abandoned along the route. Entire sections of artillery never reach the battlefield. Food supplies begin to rot. Disease spreads quietly through the ranks. By the time Suleiman reaches Vienna in late September, his army is still massive, around 50 to 70,000 effective troops, but no longer unstoppable. Vienna, a city unprepared for war. Vienna is not ready for what is coming. Its defenses are outdated, medieval walls built for a different era of warfare. Thin stone. No angled bastions. No modern fortifications designed to absorb cannon fire. Compared to newer Renaissance fortresses, Vienna is vulnerable. Panic spreads among the population. Thousands of civilians flee before the Ottomans arrive. Fields are burned. Villages abandoned. Buildings outside the walls are demolished to deny the enemy cover. Everything beyond the city becomes empty, silent, exposed. But leadership changes everything. Command falls to Nicholas Graf Salm, a seasoned veteran in his 70s, calm under pressure, experienced in war. Alongside him stands Wilhelm von Roggendorf, another capable leader. They understand one brutal truth: they cannot defeat Suleiman in open battle. So they prepare for something far worse. A siege, where survival itself becomes victory, preparing for the impossible. Inside Vienna, every second matters. Walls are reinforced with layers of earth and timber, crude, but effective at absorbing cannon fire. Cannons are positioned at key choke points. Streets are barricaded to create inner defensive lines. Supplies are rationed carefully, every loaf of bread counted. Every man is armed, not just soldiers, but blacksmiths, merchants, laborers, even the elderly. German Landsknechts, experienced mercenaries, form a critical part of the defense, bringing discipline and combat experience. The city transforms into a fortress of desperation. Because everyone understands one thing clearly: if the walls fall, there will be no escape. The siege begins. When the Ottomans arrive, the sight is overwhelming. Endless ranks of soldiers stretch across the horizon. Banners ripple in the wind, drums echo like thunder. War horns pierce the silence. Then, the bombardment begins. Cannons roar day and night. Stone cracks. Dust fills the air. Sections of wall begin to weaken, but they do not collapse. Suleiman quickly realizes the problem. Without his largest siege guns, breaking Vienna will take time he may not have. So he changes strategy. If the walls won't fall from above, they will fall from below. War beneath the ground. Ottoman engineers begin digging tunnels toward the foundations of the city walls. Their goal is precise: undermine the walls, plant explosives, and bring them crashing down. But Vienna's defenders are ready. They listen carefully, placing their ears to the ground, detecting the faint vibrations of digging. Then they respond. Countermines are dug, and beneath the battlefield, a hidden war begins. Men fight in pitch darkness. Blades clash in suffocating tunnels. Gunpowder ignites in enclosed spaces. Sometimes entire tunnels collapse, burying soldiers alive beneath tons of earth. This is not the glory of battle. This is fear. Claustrophobic, silent, merciless. Endless assaults. Above ground, the attacks never stop. Ottoman forces launch repeated assaults against the walls. Arrows rain down like storms. Gunfire cracks through the air. Ladders slam against stone. Men climb and fall. Again and again. Each assault is coordinated, relentless, and brutal. But each defense is just as fierce. The defenders fight like men who know there is no retreat. Because there isn't. And somehow, against all odds, they hold. The strain of time. Days turn into weeks. Food grows scarce. Water becomes precious. The wounded fill churches, homes, and streets. Exhaustion weighs on every soldier, but the Ottomans are suffering too. Cold winds begin to sweep across the plains. Rain returns, turning camps into mud. Supply lines stretch dangerously thin over hundreds of miles. Gunpowder becomes damp. Cannons lose power. Disease spreads through the ranks. Suleiman realizes something dangerous. Time is no longer on his side. The final gamble. By mid-October, the siege has entered its critical phase. Winter is creeping down from the Alps, bringing freezing winds, mud, and frost that threaten both army and city alike. Supplies are dwindling on both sides. The Ottomans, initially numbering over 120,000, are now reduced to approximately 60,000 effective troops, weakened by months of rain-soaked marches. Disease and hunger. Suleiman the Magnificent stands atop a small rise outside Vienna, surveying the walls battered by months of bombardment. His elite janissaries, the backbone of his army, are weary but still disciplined. Heavy artillery pieces, many abandoned in mud along the supply routes, have limited the firepower the Ottomans can bring to bear. Sipahi cavalry, once the hammer of his army, now struggle to maneuver in the churned earth outside the gates. Suleiman knows the siege cannot last long. His supply lines stretch hundreds of miles, vulnerable to attack. Winter could destroy his army faster than Vienna's walls ever could. The decision is stark. One final, massive assault, or retreat and risk dishonor. The order is given: everything or nothing. The stand of the defenders. But the defenders refuse to break. They fight at the walls, in the breaches, in the streets behind them. Every inch is contested, every second paid for in blood. Nicholas Salm himself is struck by falling debris, seriously wounded, yet still commanding. The defenders push back wave after wave. Ottoman soldiers climb, fall, and rise again. But something has changed. The momentum is gone. The attack slows. Then, it begins to fail. The retreat of Suleiman. Suleiman sees the truth. Vienna will not fall, not today. With winter closing in, he gives the order no conqueror wants to give. Retreat. The Ottoman army withdraws, leaving behind damaged equipment, abandoned supplies, and a campaign that has failed. For the first time in years, the unstoppable has been stopped. A line that could not be broken. Vienna survives, against all odds, outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched, and yet unbroken. The siege becomes a defining moment in European history. It halts Ottoman expansion into Central Europe and proves that even the greatest empire has limits. Suleiman will return in future campaigns, but Vienna will never fall to him. When the impossible became reality, history remembers empires, it remembers conquerors, it remembers victories, but sometimes it remembers something else, a city, a handful of defenders, and a moment when they stood against everything and refused to fall. If you want to see more real historical stories you never heard before like this, subscribe to Ashes of Empire and turn on notifications. Because the next story might be even more unbelievable. If you were inside Vienna, surrounded by tens of thousands, would you have stayed and fought? Or tried to escape before the siege began? Let me know in the comments.